Hello there. I'm Eric Twachtman, and this is Sanlando's Sound Waves, the daily podcast devotional taken from the book The 7 Arrows. This is week 13, day 65, the end of the week, and here's the reading from the New Testament book of Hebrews, chapter 10, verses 1 through 14. So, since the law has no more than a reflection of these realities and no finished picture of them, it is quite incapable of bringing the worshipers to perfection with the same sacrifices repeatedly offered year after year. Otherwise, the offering of them would have stopped, because the worshipers, when they had been purified once, would have no awareness of sins. Instead of that, the sins are recalled year after year in the sacrifices. Bull's blood and goat's blood are useless for taking away sins. And this is what he said, coming into the world. You who wanted no sacrifice or oblation prepared a body for me. You took no pleasure in holocausts or sacrifices for sin. Then I said, just as I was commanded in the scroll of the book, God, here I am. I am coming to obey your will. Notice that he says first, you did not want what the law lays down as the things to be offered. That is, the sacrifices, the oblations, the holocausts, and the sacrifices for sin. And you took no pleasure in them. And then he says, here I am. I am coming to obey your will. He is abolishing the first sort to replace it with the second. And this was for us to be made holy by the offering of his body made once and for all by Jesus Christ. All the priests stand at their duties every day, offering over and over again the same sacrifices which are quite incapable of taking sins away. He, on the other hand, has offered one single sacrifice for sins, and then taken his place forever at the right hand of God, where he is now waiting until his enemies are made into a footstool for him. By virtue of that one single offering, he achieved the eternal perfection of all whom he is sanctifying. There was the reading, and now we consider, once again, as we've become accustomed, the 7 arrows, the 7 categories to consider about what we've just read. Number 1, what does this passage say? And think as you ponder about what it says, what does it also reflect on the other readings from this week? Now, there were a lot of readings, but if you go back and look, you'll see a common thread. What did the passage mean to the original audience? Now remember, this is several thousand years later than the ones from Leviticus. What does the passage tell us about God? What does this tell us about humanity? What does the passage demand of me? How does this passage change the way I relate to people, especially in light of the universality of what we just read? And finally, what does the passage prompt me to pray to God? And here's the devotional from page 81 in the book. The author of the book of Hebrews picked up on many of the themes found in the first 5 books of the Bible, particularly the sacrificial system. He took various aspects of God's plan in the Old Testament and showed that Jesus was greater than every facet of the system God had prescribed for the nation of Israel. In Hebrews 10, the author demonstrated that the old system for dealing with sin was inadequate because it required the priest and the people to continually offer sacrifices. He could never quit or sit down and rest from his work. The people could never stop bringing sacrifices because as soon as they offered one substitute, they'd go out and sin again, requiring another sacrifice. What they needed was a permanent atonement, which is exactly what Jesus provided. He offered himself as a perfect sacrifice for the past, present, and future sins of his people. Once he offered his life as a substitute, the work was finished. Jesus did not have to die year after year. He was the perfect, once and for all, sacrifice for God's people. Those who trust in him through faith can know that their sins are forgiven, and they will never need another substitute. The perfect Lamb of God has already finished his work. Well, there it is, week 13. Thank you for being with us. I appreciate it, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good weekend.